Good morning, Birmingham. This is Jack Carter. You know me, gravel voice, endless cups of tea. And today, we're not talking football or the weather. We're talking about something that goes right to the heart of our streets, the city's demographic transformation. I'm joined by Dr. Elena Vance, urban sociologist. Elena, good to have you.
Thanks, Jack. Good to be here. Important conversation, and a necessary one. I'll try to keep the numbers clear and the implications honest.
Right. Let's grab a brew and start with a cold facts, and then we'll get into what it feels like to live it. Elena, lay it out for us. How has Birmingham changed statistically over the last decade?
Between the 2011 and 2021 censuses, the proportion of people identifying as white British in Birmingham fell from 57.9% to 42.9%. At the same time, the Asian population rose to about 31% of the city's total. Those are citywide figures. They show a clear structural shift in who lives here.
So, in 10 years, that's a near 15 percentage point drop. That's big. People, especially long-term residents, feel that. It's not subtle.
No, it's not. And it's driven by several factors. Different birth rates across communities, sustained net migration, both international immigration and internal migration, and a pattern we're seeing in many post-industrial cities, out-migration from inner-city wards to suburban peripheries.
Explain that last bit. You're saying people are leaving the centre?
Yes, young families, often white British, are moving to nearby towns or commuter suburbs, what we call counter-urbanisation. They seek bigger houses, perceived better schools, less congestion. Meanwhile, new arrivals, including more recent migrants and their families, concentrate in particular wards and near city services.
So the city looks different, not just because of newcomers, but because others have left. It's a reshuffling.
Exactly. And looking at short-term projections for 2025, analysts forecast the white British share dipping below 41% citywide. That's a continuation of the trend rather than an abrupt change.
Below 41%. That's a threshold moment for some people. It feels like a line in the sand. But numbers are one thing. The reality on the ground varies a lot by ward, right?
Very much so. Wards such as Alum Rock, Aston and Sparkbrook have transformed more rapidly. In some of those wards, white British residents have become a small minority. School rolls reflect that shift more quickly than electoral rolls. Classrooms often show the leading edge of demographic change.
I grew up near Aston. I remember summer streets full of kids who all knew each other, everyone popping round for a cuppa and a chat. Now, those same streets feel different. Different shops, different languages on the corner. Yeah, but also, I gotta say, there's been a change in how people relate to each other. Do the numbers say anything about community cohesion?
Census data alone can't measure cohesion directly, but it does help explain pressures. Rapid change, especially when it's concentrated, can stress local institutions, schools, GP practices, community centers. When services are stretched, perceptions of decline can rise. More litter, more reports of antisocial behaviour, shifting local norms. Those are the kinds of experiences people describe.
And let's be blunt, long-term residents often link these changes to a decline in neighbourhood quality of life. They talk about more rubbish on pavements, more nights disturbed by noise, parking chaos. Some of that's real, some of it's perception. How do we separate the two?
We need mixed methods, numbers plus interviews, police calls, council complaints, school waiting lists. Those give objective indicators, but lived experience matters. When people say they feel less connected or less safe, that's a data point too. What's crucial is not dismissing feelings while also not attributing every negative trend to demographic change alone.
Yeah, that's important. I've heard some folks say it used to be our community. They mean a shared sense of history, a rhythm of life. That can be lost, sure, but there's also vibrancy coming in. New businesses, new foods, new festivals. It's a mixed bag.
Absolutely. Cultural renewal and economic activity often accompany demographic shifts. New shops, social enterprises, cultural events, they can revitalize parts of the city. Yet, if infrastructure and social investment don't keep pace, benefits aren't evenly felt.
Let's get hyper-local then. Alum Rock, Aston, Sparkbrook. You mentioned these. What specifically has happened there? Schools first. You said classrooms show the change quick.
Yes, school demographics change faster because children are concentrated and births occur locally. In some primary schools within these wards, the proportion of pupils from white British backgrounds has dropped dramatically, often to single-digit percentages, while pupils of South Asian heritage, for instance, now represent the majority. That affects curriculum needs, language support, and the whole day-to-day of a school.
And that feeds into family decisions. Parents look at school makeup when they move. If you want your kids to be around certain peers, you might move. It's cyclical.
Correct. Housing affordability also plays a role. As central neighborhoods become more affordable relative to affluent suburbs, or as different housing stock becomes available, the composition of residents shifts accordingly. That's partly what led to the concentrations we're observing in wards like Sparkbrook.
People in those areas will tell you stories. The corner shop that's been there for decades now sells different things. Prayer times are a daily rhythm. Street festivals that weren't there before. For some, that's a welcome change. For others, it's a loss.
And those reactions are shaped by age, class, and lived history. Older residents may mourn lost routines. Younger residents or newcomers may see opportunity. Policymakers need to bridge that gap, not stoke division.
Bridge it, yeah? You said earlier that perceptions of increased litter and antisocial behaviour are real in some places. Is that a consequence of demographic change or something else?
It's multi-causal. Demographic change interacts with economic conditions, local governance, and service provision. If a ward sees cuts to bin collections, youth services reduced, and fewer community policing resources, those problems will surface, regardless of who's moving in. But when change coincides with service decline, people connect the two.
Makes sense. So what should planners and councils be doing? Elena, you're the data brain here. What's the recipe?
First, invest in local infrastructure, schools, health centers, waste services. Second, targeted community building funding, support for multicultural community centers, language-accessible services, mediation programs. Third, housing policy that encourages mixed-income neighborhoods to avoid deep concentrations of disadvantage. Finally, engage residents in dialogue, both long-term and new, so planning reflects lived realities.
Sounds sensible. But politically, that's hard. There's limited cash, and often the loudest voices are the angriest. How do you make the case to councillors who just want quick wins?
You frame it economically and socially. Well-run neighborhoods reduce policing costs, improve health outcomes, and keep local businesses viable. Investing early prevents more expensive crises later. And use data to show the return on investment, not just moral arguments.
Practical. Now, for the people listening, long-term residents worried about loss of community, what can they do tomorrow? Not council-level stuff, but grassroots.
Start small. Attend a local residents' association meeting. Volunteer at a school or community centre. Organise or join a street cleanup. Learn a neighbour's name. These actions rebuild social ties faster than top-down policies alone.
And to newcomers, what should they be mindful of?
Engage with existing community groups, support local businesses, and understand local customs. Mutual respect and small acts of reciprocity go a long way.
Elena, final thoughts. After all this, numbers, schoolrooms, pavement, what's your summation?
Birmingham's demographic transformation is significant and continuing. It's reshaping institutions, schools, and neighborhood life. The transition carries both opportunity and challenge. Success depends on intentional policy, sustained investment, and a civic effort to weave old and new communities together.
And my 2 pen off. Change is tough. People feel it in their bones. But feeling threatened and acting divisively only makes things worse. We need realism, which Elena has given, and compassion. If we invest wisely, maybe our streets can hold memories and new stories at the same time.
Well put, Jack. And to planners listening, use the data, talk to people, and don't let rhetoric substitute for targeted action.
All right, that's us for today. Heavy, but needed. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you to everyone listening.
If you've lived the change or worry about your neighbourhood, drop us a line. Tell us what you're seeing. Next week, we'll look at transport links and how commuting patterns are reshaping town centres. Until then, keep an eye on your street and, well, look out for one another.